Hello everybody and welcome to Jim Games, where today we're going to do another awkward guests. I'm not going to do awkward guests every time, but I wanted to do this one again and do it in where I'm using my regular voice and not a hushed voice. We are going to play once again on the highest level. And hopefully you can see how you play this game and deduce everything on the highest level of the game. And I'm going to generate a never before done case as well. And we're going to continue. And I don't know, because this didn't show up well in the last video. So let's, hopefully it will this time. But we understand that we can get duplicates. Alright, the case number for this one is 051643-B, and we're going to look at our cards. So 14 is going to be the first card, and it is Stanley claims that he was in the billiard room at the time of the murder. So we'll put an S in here in billiard room. And then card number 50 will be next. Mortimer claims to have been in the billiard room at the time of the murder. Okay. Now card 59. Stanley claims to have been with Greg at the time of the murder. So that would put Greg in the billiard room as well. And then I'll have an arrow pointing from Stanley to Greg, going that one direction. Alright, card number 215. The police report said that Angelica Albinson's extreme principles was not the motive of the crime. Alright, next we need card 218. Poisonous plant was not the murder weapon, and that is found in the bedroom. It's also poison. And finally, card 241, which is that card right there. Blackmail was not the motive. So we can eliminate exposed fraud for Claudette, fixed fights for Greg Gaffney, and fake identity for Stanley Smith. Alright, so I'm keeping the cards in the decks. I very rarely get duplicates, and so I'm not worried about it. I don't have to find where to put them all at the end. So with what I've got right now, I've got a lot of people gathered here in the billiard room. And when I play this game, the Q is the #1 murder weapon for some reason. Let me see. We don't know anything about Berwick's or Mortimer except where Mortimer started. Now, when they claim to have been in a room at the time of the murder, if they're the murderer, they were lying. However, it will be their starting position nonetheless. So, these three did start in the billiard room. I am going to ask about billiard room as one of my things, because I want to see if somebody will tell me how many people were in the billiard room. And since Stanley said he was with Greg, I want to see if Greg says he was with Stanley. So, I'm going to do a Greg question. So I'm going to ask concerning Greg and billiard room. And we're going to go with the 3 cards worth 3 points. Go for those low cards as much as you can unless you're doing weapons. So, card 25 will be our first card to look at. Mortimer claims to have been with Greg at the time of the murder. So I can go from Mortimer over to Greg. Now that is two people claiming to be with Greg. So I know Greg was not the murderer. He still could be an accomplice. In perfect crime, there can be an accomplice. Alright, 186 is the next clue I get. And that's 186. Alright, the Berwick sisters claim to have been with Greg at the time of the murder. So let's add Berwick's here to the living or billiard room. And they're pointing to Greg. Wow, Greg is really off the hook. Yeah, I'm going to put the X on him because he didn't murder. But I'm going to put a C question mark inside of it as a possible conspirator. And we get number 231. Okay, it wasn't Broken Dreams, so we can go over to Mortimer and we can cross off Broken Dreams. Okay, so right off the bat we have everybody in the world saying, hey, I was with Greg at the time of the murder. But so far he hasn't said that he was with others. I'm going to leave this for right now, and I want to do what usually is my first question in the game. Bedroom and kitchen. The reason I like to ask about those is to eliminate some paths or figure out who has gone through rooms or did not go through rooms. So I'm going to just take two 2-point cards. I'm going to get 2 cards no matter what. So right now I would like for them to be 2-pointers, or 1-pointers, I'm sorry. So 65 and 76. So 65 is that one right there. Rat poison was not the murder weapon. That's in the kitchen. And that is another poison off the list. And 76 is the next clue. 76. Alright, nobody went from the bedroom to the garage or vice versa. So we can eliminate that path right there. Okay. Now I'm going to do kitchen and shed. And we'll do 3 cards worth 4 points. So 81. Alright. Nobody went from the library to the shed and vice versa. So that path was not used. Alright, card 102. So, either Claudette or Stanley might have gone through the shed. Claudette, Stanley. So Claudette / Stanley might have gone through the shed. Alright, card 152. Pirated idea. We found some evidence, and that is for Mortimer. Pirated idea. So right now that's put some suspicion onto Mortimer. And Mortimer was over here. Alright. So next I want to look at vestibule. I might find out that nobody went through the vestibule from the billiard room. And then I'm going to do study so I can get some information on the weapon. And I'm going to do a high point one this time because weapons are involved. So 3 cards worth 8 points. 71. Alright, 71. The housekeeper reports that there was one person in the vestibule at the time of the murder. Excuse me. Usually means a second one's on its way. 98. Right there. Ooh. A suffocating weapon was not used. That eliminates 4 weapons. All 4 of these over here. So that's the leather strap in the garage, the pillow from the bedroom, the rope from the shed, and the curtain cord from the library. And then card 228. There it is. There was no heavy bleeding, according to the coroner. So we come down here, and heavy bleeding is that symbol there. So that eliminates the revolver from the bedroom, the kitchen knife from the kitchen, the saber from the vestibule, and the rat poison was already eliminated. Okay, next. Alright, I still need some directions and some people moving through rooms. So, I'm going to take a look at garage. We haven't been there yet. And I'm going to do kitchen once more. Next. And 3 cards worth 4 points. That takes me down to 54 points. 123. The antifreeze was not the murder weapon. Now that's yet another poison. And that's in the garage. Alright, 137 is the next clue. The wrench for the garage, not the murder weapon. And that is a blunt weapon. Okay. So, the killer may have gone through the garage, but the weapon didn't come from there. 194 will be our last card for this clue. Alright, we can eliminate broken dreams, and we already did that. Mortimer's broken dreams was not the motive for the murder. Okay, now. I'm going to ask him about a couple of these people who claim to have been with Greg. I want to see if Greg claims back. So let's go with Stanley and the Berwick sisters. No, Mortimer and the Berwick sisters, I think. Between Stanley and... No, Stanley, because Mortimer I know a little bit more about. Stanley, I've only eliminated one motive. So Berwick sisters and Stanley. And we will go... How about 2 cards worth 4 points? 116. Okay. Either. Well, actually, we know both. Claudette and Stanley did not pass through the bedroom. So Claudette and Stanley did not go through the bedroom. Card 229. Alright. Oh, neither Stanley nor the Berwick sisters went through the shed. Stanley still could have been the murderer and gone up this way around, but he didn't go through the bedroom or the shed. So if he was a murderer, he went that way around. He also could have come this way, even gone into the kitchen to get a weapon and then back around, because these are double-sided arrows on most of these. The only arrows that are not double-sided are the ones going into the study. Once the criminal's in the study, they don't backtrack anymore. Okay. I'm suspicious, well, still about everybody except for Greg. So I'm going to ask about trophy room. I want to know about traffic going through trophy room. And then I'm going to ask about billiard room. See if we can get anything for billiard room. And I'm going to do 3 cards, 3 points. So card number 3. Yep, nobody went through the trophy room garage connection. $17. Either the Berwick sisters or Greg might have gone through the trophy room. Berwick sisters or Greg. If they did go through the trophy room, they did so to pick up the weapon. All right, 101 is our last card to look at. Greg says he started in the billiard room. And we do have him there. Okay. So 47 points left to spend. Now we know that nobody went through the garage, but we already had all those weapons marked off. And I'm inclined to think that one of these people from the billiard room committed the crime. The best card that I could get right now would be a card saying that there were 3 people in the billiard room at the time of the murder. That would mean the Berwick sisters are the ones that committed the murder. Now, I'm going to ask about kitchen and living room. I want to try to establish some more paths. So kitchen, living room, and also some more information about starting points for people. So lowest points, I'll do the 3 cards worth 4 points. 45. Alright, card 45. Berwick sisters and Greg did not go through the kitchen. That is very, very good information. It actually eliminates both of them. I'll show you in a minute. But let's look at 128. Claudette claims to have been in the living room at the time of the murder. Yep. Card 222. Nobody went from the living room to the library or vice versa. Okay. So, the only way to the study and the crime scene right now is through the kitchen. Alright. Nobody went through this. So, we're limited down here because nobody went through these here. So, they had to have gone through the kitchen, which means Berwick sisters did not commit the crime. Greg did not commit the crime, which we already knew. Now, there is still the path through the shed, and there is still the path through the bedroom. We can only rule out Claudette on this path. She could have gone that way. Stanley is ruled out both ways, so he is innocent. So we are down to Angelica, Claudette, or Mortimer as the killer. So that is a lot. Now Greg could still be a conspirator, so that's something else we'll have to find out. We have 43 points remaining. So let's go with Mortimer, Claudette. Okay. Mortimer, Claudette. They're both possibles as far as being the criminal. Also, Claudette can tell on Mortimer for pirated idea. We're going to look at 3 cards worth 5 points. 142. Alright, vengeance was not the reason for the murder. So that eliminates this one. The child neglect for Mortimer. Fraternity hazing here. So Mortimer's pirated idea is still right there ready and staring at us. Alright, card 173. That one. Claudette claims that she was alone at the time of the murder. Alright, so I'm going to put a little dot above her head here that she claims to have been alone. And then 202 is the last card for this one. Alright, we've got Claudette telling on Mortimer for that pirated idea. Tells us 2 things. If Mortimer is the criminal for this idea, that's the one thing, then Claudette is not a conspirator because they will not tattle on each other about their motives. But Claudette says she was alone anyway. I'm thinking Mortimer committed the crime. I need to know if Greg claims to have been with Mortimer. Stanley is the other one that can tell on Mortimer. I am getting close to knowing the murder weapon as well. Okay, I'm going to ask about Greg because I need him to tell me he was with somebody or not. And then I think I'm going to look at vestibule. Because if I would just happen to get a clue saying that nobody went through this path right here, I can rule out all those people. I doubt that I'll get a clue like that, especially since I think it was one of those people. Alright, next. I'm going to do... Oh, 2 cards worth 2 points. Let's do it. 40. Alright, either Greg or Mortimer might have passed through the kitchen. Greg did not, so Mortimer has a path through the kitchen. Looking even worse for Mortimer, is it not? Alright, 191. 191. Stolen recipe for Greg Gaffney. Well, we already know he's innocent. So there we go. Mortimer, come on now. I'm pretty sure it's Mortimer at this point. Need to get the weapon narrowed down. So study. And shed. Let's do 3 worth 9 points. I've got lots of points left. 33. This will likely be all about weapons, though. There were no burn marks. So burn marks is this little lightning bolt looking mark. So any of these weapons that have that were not it. Shotgun from the trophy room, not used. Derringer gun from the trophy room, not used. The pesticide from the shed was not the weapon. And the rope from the shed, which we already saw, was not it. 54. It was not a bladed weapon. So, that'll eliminate the letter opener from the bedroom and the machete from the trophy room. So we no longer have a reason to go through trophy room or bedroom. 72 is another card to look at. No signs of a fight. So that's this double arrow. We already had all of that eliminated. Okay. I still don't know the weapon. I pretty much think it's Mortimer. Pirated idea. It's possible he had an accomplice in Greg. So I need to know about Greg's animal cruelty. 2 people that'll tell me about that are the Berwicks and Claudette. So let's question about them. Berwick, Claudette. Next. And 3 cards, 3 points. 125. Alright, Claudette's exposed fraud was not the one. We already knew that. 174. The Berwicks claim to have been with Stanley at the time of the murder. So, the Berwick sisters have already been cleared, and that clears Stanley. Well, Stanley's already cleared also. And they're all cleared of being the murderer. They're not cleared of accomplishship yet. 214 is the last card to look at for this question. Alright, the Berwicks said that they were in the billiard room, so that's where we have them. So, everybody says they were with Greg. Greg hasn't claimed to be with anybody yet. The Berwicks claim that they were with Stanley. I'm suspicious mostly of Mortimer, but I do believe that Mortimer had an accomplice. But it wouldn't be Claudette. Nope. Stanley. Okay, 24 points. Getting a little bit worried here. So let's talk to Greg. Let's ask about Greg. And then let's just pick Mortimer. Maybe he'll give me a card with both of their names on it. I'm going to do 2 cards worth 2 points. 21. Mortimer claims to have been with Stanley at the time of the murder. And then 184. Greg claims to have been with the Berwick sisters at the time of the murder. All right. So that helped. So Greg and the Berwick sisters both claim to have been with each other. It's possible then that either they were both innocent or they're covering for each other. And one is the criminal, which would be Berwick, and the other is an accomplice. Thing is, Berwick's claimed to have been with Stanley at the time of the murder, but that could be a lie. I'm going to ask about billiard room. I want to know how many people were in there at the time of the murder. And okay, no, Berwick's were cleared from being a murderer. And Greg is cleared from being a murderer. So they're not accomplices either. Alright. Both of them are cleared. So I'm going to put check marks by both of them. So I forgot they were ruled out for not being able to go through the kitchen. And Stanley is also cleared, because he couldn't have gone through the bedroom nor the shed. So Mortimer is the one we're looking at. So I'm not going to ask about billiard room. Mortimer was it. I just want to know weapon. So study, and then I'm going to ask about living room and see if we can eliminate blunderbuss. Next, I'm going to do 3 cards worth 9 points. That's big, but since I only need the weapon now, I think we've got it. 24. Card 24. It was not a firearm. So now the blunderbuss is out. That leaves frying pan, shovel, and cue. Let's look at 83 next. 83. No strong odors. Alright, well, that does not eliminate anything for us. Finally, 135. No cyanosis or burns. That does eliminate shovel. And that's it. So, at this point in time, it's a 50-50 shot. And also, I still don't know if there was a conspirator. So I'm going to ask about Greg, and I'm going to ask about Stanley. If Stanley gives me this information here, then he's not a conspirator. Greg, if he tells me he was with Mortimer, then he's not a conspirator. So Greg and Stanley. Two cards were 2 points. No, 3 were 3. Let's do that one. 78. All right, yep, Stanley told about the pirated idea. And since a conspirator will not tattle on the killer, Stanley is not a conspirator either. So he is totally innocent. 89. Stanley claims to have been with the Berwick sisters. And then 138. Macabre bet was not the motive, so Stanley not an accomplice. But kind of already knew that. So I still don't know about Greg being an accomplice. And I still don't know 100% the weapon. Frying pan or Q. Like I said, the Q is the #1 weapon in the games that I play. So it's time to ask about Greg. And then let's ask about Kitchen. Now, how about Greg and Study? 2 cards worth 4 points. 91. All right, it was not vengeance or resentment. Okay, Greg is in the clear. All right, that was needed information. Greg was not the conspirator because he had no motive for conspiring. Well, conspiring. All right, 208. Hopefully this will eliminate the final weapon. Greg claims to have been with Stanley at the time of the murder. Okay. So, I've got Mortimer, Morty, because a pirated idea. And right now it's 50-50 shot. I'm going to go with Q. I'm going to go ahead and try to solve it. If I'm wrong, then it should let me try the other. Actually, why don't I go ahead and do the clue here? I'm going to go billiard room and study. Gives me 2 cards worth 3. So 111 and 132. Here's the 132. Nobody went from the billiard room to the trophy room. Didn't need to know that. And 111. There were more than 3 people in the billiard room at the time of the murder. And that's true. The Berwicks, S and G. Since it did not give me anything about Q, I really do think it was the Q. With 3 points remaining, I'm going to try to solve it. Say that it was Mortimer. Say that it was pirated idea. And say that it was with the Q. No accomplice. Alright. That was wrong. So it should be the other one, but I have to ask about something again. So, study and kitchen. Thing is, it won't eliminate the frying pan. And I'm going to get the one last card worth 3 points. 148. It was not an attack from behind. That did not eliminate anything for me. So I'm going to solve it now. Mortimer, pirated idea, frying pan. With no accomplice. And let me put the X there and then frying pan. Oh, and it is no. Let's check it. Got it. Zero points remaining though. Okay. Well, I hope that this one came out better than the last one. I do need to get me a good setup going. For right now, this is what I had. And we probably will attack a different game next time. Could be Final Girl. It could be Under Fallen Skies. Not sure yet. Watch for it. And if you like this, go ahead and give a like. Leave a comment if you have any questions or concerns about this. And until next time, this is Jim signing off. Goodbye.